It all began in the Midwest, October of 1981. A boy named Brian was born on the 13th in Rochester, Minnesota. On the 18th, just 5 days later, a girl named Jill was born, less than 3 hours away in Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin. But the two would lead separate lives for nearly 3 decades.
So how did it happen? How did we meet after all this time? Well, let me tell you.
How we met and got together. Brian and I know each other through our bands and through a mutual love of one another's music.
My buddy and bandmate, Kyle, happened to be a big fan of a certain band from California.
My band, Birds and Batteries, played a show in Eau Claire, Wisconsin with Brian's band, Larks.
They were doing a tour across the U.S., and we thought it would be lovely if they came and played a show in Eau Claire with our band. We met briefly that one night in 2011.
I remember when I saw Larks play and I saw Brian drumming, I thought this was easily one of the most talented humans I had ever met or will ever meet.
Didn't really have a chance to connect with Jill that night, but it was a precursor.
We met again about 6 months later.
My other band was releasing our second album.
Peter Wolfkrier asked Birds and Batteries to open for them for a 3-week West Coast leg of their tour.
We were looking for a West Coast band, and I thought, what better band than Birds and Batteries, one of my absolute favorites.
And during the time of this 3-week tour, Birds and Batteries got to know Peter Wolfkrier very well.
We really seemed to hit it off with these guys.
We spent a lot of nights in the same hotels.
We kept hanging out before the shows at the venues.
And we all dressed up for Halloween together and had an amazing time. Eating dinner together, eating breakfast together.
And I was always looking for ways to change up the seating if you might catch my drift.
I found myself trying to find little ways to hang out with one member of their band in particular, Jill.
One night I saw Jill back up the giant red Birds and Batteries van outside the venue after the show for load-in, and I was sold. This girl's even an amazing driver.
Had a blast, had a wonderful time. There was a 3 a.m. plunge into the Pacific in San Diego.
I was there. I saw it happen.
An amazing last night, one that would be dubbed Magical Night.
Kind of celebrating our last night on the road together.
I felt like I needed to tell her in person how I felt.
I conferred with my bandmate, who confirmed that I shouldn't say anything for fear that I would ruin the friendship that we had going with them.
When we all came back from the beach that night and stayed back at the house, that Brian and Kyle were acting really awkward.
Jill was my dream girl. So I felt like I had to tell her.
So I kind of followed her around all night, looking for an opportunity where the two of us were just by ourselves.
And then he told me he had a, quote, heart-stopping crush on me.
And I finally found the moment, only to get the words out and have somebody walk up immediately afterward. So the rest of the night I felt like she was probably not my greatest fan.
I asked Brian, like, what was going on? And he said, oh man, I goofed.
And we never got a chance to talk for the rest of the night.
The very next day, as we were driving home,
It was just sort of quiet in the van. And Jill was just like, oh my god. Can I read you guys something?
I sent her a letter the next day, explaining myself a little further.
I got a message from Brian that was essentially a love letter.
Basically detailing how she was clearly my dream girl.
And I was driving at the time, and I was like, oh my god, oh my god.
I honestly felt like I was sending a letter to a celebrity.
And Jill proceeded to basically summarize it to protect Brian.
When I read that letter, everything changed. I thought that this was an amazing person, an amazing opportunity.
I didn't know how she would respond, but it turned out she felt the same way.
We started to be in touch long distance and started to visit each other back and forth.
I came out and visited for 11 days to start.
It was here in San Francisco, on the rooftop of Jill's Potrero Hill apartment.
We would talk at length for many hours late into the night, discussing important issues like politics,
Religion.
favorite donut flavor, the things that really count in a relationship.
We seemed to have a lot of similarities.
Sometimes we leave the house without realizing we're just exactly the same.
I really felt like she was my other half, right from the start.
Tell me where you wanna live. Tell me where.
We gave the long distance thing a shot and it worked out. At the end of all of it, we decided we were the perfect match.
It was as good as I ever imagined and more times 10.
And before I knew it, he was making plans to move out.
After a few visits back and forth, we decided it was time to try living in the same city.
Actually, a year to the date of him writing me that love letter, he was in a moving van from St. Paul to move out to sunny Oakland, California.
And after less than a year, I was more sure than ever that this was the girl that I needed to spend the rest of my life with.
Now it's a year and a half later, and we're planning our wedding, and couldn't be more excited.
And the rest is history.
And the rest is history.
Arctic flowers would never grow without someone to hold.
That's how we met, that's how we roll.